I know we talked the other day, speaking of kind of pushing out the contract for a few years. You being an A's fan, we talked the other day after their signing with Severino at 3 for 67. Is that what it was?
It's 3 for 67. Only two are guaranteed. The third, I think, was a player option or something of that nature.
I don't see why, and you mentioned it the other day too. Don't see why they don't try something similar to the deferred money. I did say I thought Fisher was going to open his pocketbooks a little bit as he's transitioning out of Oakland into Sacramento and then Las Vegas. I think if they could find that loophole and use it to their advantage, they could potentially get some solid arms and bats to fill out that lineup. And really, we even talked about some possible trades the other day. They've got enough talent, I think, to get Luis Robert and or Garrett Crochet from Chicago if they really wanted to. We made a couple dummy packages, but they
Right.
have 3 or 4 top 15, 20 prospects that they could send in a package for one or both.
Well, it's like we mentioned or was discussing. You see the Dodgers doing it, and everybody understands why they're doing it because they have huge money. So, and the marketing value they're going to make on these guys, like a Otani, the marketing value alone over the next say 5 years is going to make plenty of money for them to then in turn pay him that remaining 60 million or whatever it may be per year on the back end of this thing. Um, Oakland, though, I feel like is headed toward a similar situation, and you're about to move to Vegas. There's going to be plenty of interest there, sports wise. I feel like if you can just put a competitive field on the team for when you get there. But in
Yeah,
order to do that, you've got to start in Sacramento. So, like, you can't go to Sacramento over these next 2 years and finish last in the West and then flop into Vegas and go, now we're going to sign three high profile guys and y'all come watch. Like, if you'll put a competitive product on the field in Sacramento these next 2 years, I would say not sky's the limit because it's still going to be Oakland, and still going to be same management, which is trash in my opinion, but it's it's at least going to give you a lot higher floor than we currently have to where you can go sign somebody to where now when you sign a 15 to 20 million dollar contract, everybody in Major League Baseball is not blowing up about it going, wow, did you see what Oakland did today?
yeah.
Like, what are they doing? They've never done this. Um, that said, back to the Severino contract, personally, I'm not a fan of that particular signing just because I think if you're going to open it that much, no, you can't go sign a Burns. You can't go sign a um, if Snell was still available, a Snell. You can't open it that much, but I think you can open it enough to where you go. This guy had a 4+ ERA. Let's maybe dig a little bit deeper. Let's see if we can find a little more value than what we may get, because here's a guy that is coming off a 3.91 ERA season with 21 less strikeouts than innings pitched.
Right.
So he's not a K guy, not a high K guy. Higher ERA signals that. Um, he did develop a sinker, so that's going to cut down on Ks and produce more balls in play, produce more ground outs. Hopefully, is what Oakland I think is looking at, because you're going to Sacramento where the ball's going to fly. Um, but again, that said, I just feel like at 20, it's roughly 21 and a half a year, somewhere in there, I think is what the final numbers work out to be. I think you could have ponied up another, say, 5 a year, 6 a year, somewhere in there. and maybe stretch the years out of a couple and got a guy like Max Fried, maybe. I guess that'll be time will tell what he falls in, what range he falls in. But I can't imagine he gets more than say 28 a year. I wouldn't think. And
Yeah,
so now
the
for an
current
extra
market
five
says
to
he's probably
six,
going to get 30, 32, but
and if so, then maybe it is what it is. But like you know, Cali guy from California, California born and bred product. You talking into coming back for California team, young team, a lot of youth, good defense behind you, ready to compete. You know what? We want to pay you for an extra couple years to keep you here, and just see what he says. And I feel like that was probably not even a phone call that was made just because of being scared that he may ask for 32, or he may tell your organization he has zero interest in being Oakland. He wants to play for a true contender.
yeah,
But I think
and
you
I
at
imagine
least,
he
I think as
does.
management, you at least got to make the phone call.
Yeah, and they may have. We don't obviously have the background story, and it may be one of those scenarios where he does want to play for a contender. With the right pieces, Oakland really could be in the West. Astros could lose somebody who's been part of the heart and soul of their team for a decade, and Bregman. Rangers, you never know what's going to happen with the Grom at this point. You don't know what's going to happen with Leiter and Rocker. Your church is probably walking, most likely walking.
Eovaldi's gone.
Yeah, Evaldi's probably gone. The Angels are the Angels.
Yep. Even though
Seattle,
they're trying not to be,
yeah, they're
they're at
trying to
least
be the
making
mini
some
Braves
signs.
like the A's are, but that's not working out for
Yep.
anybody. Seattle's probably the most overall talent on the roster, and they can't ever put it together. We'll see what new manager does this year without Service starting the season. So I don't
I,
know.
I think if it was me, and I'm not obviously, neither one of us ever will have a say in something like that, I imagine. But if you're Oakland right now, you have a roster of guys. Butler is young. Geloff is young. Um,
Shay,
Shea is fairly young. Like he's older than you would think, or I think some would think because he's still just getting into doing it. But he was a little bit older prospect when we made the trade. But he's still young. You have Hernandez, who was one of Baltimore's higher end prospects when we acquired him. And right now
Soderstrom.
they're hitting on all their prospects. So you would like to think that he's gonna turn the corner this year and find it. You have Soderstrom, who's been your number one prospect for a couple years now, going into this past year. Um,
I'm always high on
Bleday's
Esteury Ruiz just because of how fast he is and what he can do when he gets on base.
Bleday is still young, even though it
Yep.
feels like been around forever. Ruiz is still young. Denzel Clark is the next up and coming right-handed version, sort of a Lawrence Butler type as far as an outfielder with bat to ball skills. Everybody
Booker's not
pretty
even
much
old.
in your yeah, everybody in your offensive lineup is under 30 years of age.
Rooker
The
just
only one
turned
I
30.
think,
He's your old man
yeah,
of the group.
the only two older is Brown and Rooker. Everybody else in that offensive lineup is under 30. Jacob Wilson's just come up this past year, and you kind of know where I stand on him. And the reason I held him for last is to jump into this segue. Where I'm going with this is if it was me, if I'm Oakland, you can watch Jacob Wilson. Jacob Wilson's never going to be a power hitter of any regard whatsoever. Like I think we're talking he's maxing out at 10 home runs a year, max.
He
Um,
might he might get a few more in Sacramento, more so
Possibly.
than Oakland.
But he's a free swinger. He doesn't take a whole lot of walks. Like he's up there to put the bat to ball, and he has really good bat to ball skills. So it's going to be one of those situations where I think he's going to take so few walks. He's going to be so non-selective per se at the plate that because of him putting it in play so much, you're going to see less home runs just because he's not going to be looking for his pitch. He's not going to be getting his pitch. He's just going to be getting a good pitch. And so, is he going to hit 300? Very possibly. But because of the light, where I'm going with it, because he hits so light, because he's not going to take walks, he's not going to get on base at a
Okay.
I think he is a perfect trade piece for Oakland right now. He is a guy with a high pedigree, was a high draft pick, come up, hit fairly well average wise as a immediate rookie, almost straight out of college. Like there's going to be teams that would jump on him, that are going to feel a whole lot higher about him than I feel about him. And so you could package a Wilson with, um, we talked about it the other day. You could package him with a, say, Spence, who's coming off a fairly decent year. You could throw in a
Susac if you've got Shea and Soderstrom.
You could throw in a Susac because of Shea, because of Soderstrom. Even though they're trying to, I think, shift Soderstrom to a first base position, that's mainly because we do have Shea and we don't have a first baseman. But if something come down the way where Shea couldn't do it no more, or you needed to DH him, or he leaves for free agency or something, like you could always bounce back to Soderstrom as the C, or go sign a C somewhere along that line whenever it got to that point. But you could package that kind of deal with Wilson as the headliner, and go get you a possible Crochet to give you a solid 1-2-3 or a decent 1-2-3 punch in the rotation, with Crochet as your ace, Severino is your 2, and now Sears, who was fairly decent last year, he turns into a solid number 3. He's not an ace of a staff, but he's a solid number 3 now.
And we know Crochet wants a long-term deal, so as we talked about earlier, these couple of years in Sacramento, you keep his money down and make the contract backloaded for when the come to Vegas happens, and he's in his mid to late 20s on a 4-year big money deal, leading the team, this new team with the new charge and a new outlook on life.
Yeah, because like right now he's still under team control for another, I think it's 2 years, something like that.
Arbitration eligible 25, free agent 27.
Yeah, so 2
you
more
buy through
years
his ARB
of
years
cheap.
at a low cost, and then you pay him the free agency years in advance.
That's right.
And he's set up. He's 25, be 26 mid next season. So you're going to Vegas with him at 28, 29, and you've got him for another 4 years, which is right through the middle of his prime.
Yep. And even worst case scenario, you pull a typical Oakland and you go, I'm not paying the guy. You get him for 2 years at cheap, and then toward the end of the second season, if you're not running into the playoffs, then you dealing for a major package, or dealing to a contender for something that helps you down the road.
Yeah.
And for him, I think you could definitely recoup more than you lost in Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at, I know we discussed trying to make a trade for both of them. You're obviously not against packaging Wilson. Henry Bolt would be a future replacement for Luis Robert. You keep Max Muncy to fill in just in case Hernandez or somebody doesn't pan out. You send Susac, you send Gunnar Hoglund. At that point, you've just sent 4 of your top 12 prospects who are all in a year or so major league ready. The White Sox, I don't know that they're going to get a better package than that, especially from a positional standpoint. You get a starting shortstop, which Braden Shoemake's obviously not the answer to that. You get a replacement outfielder, you get a pitcher, you get a catcher, which I think they've got a catcher coming up the pipe. I can't think off the top of my head right now, but either way, Susak's got size to play first base if you realize Vaughn can't hang there. I don't know that they'll ever pull the trigger on something like that, but
Right.
there's plenty of guys that could help Chicago right now, and that gets the A's a really good lineup.
So if you look at it like this, you send them Jacob Wilson, the number one prospect from your organization. That
Who has
as
proved that
well.
he can hit in the major
That's
leagues.
right. As well as he was a high first round pick, so he carries weight. So you're sending the number one prospect. You're sending Henry Bolt at number 5, who's not even projected to be in the majors till 26 or 27. That's 3 years from now. It's
And even now he's 21. He'll be 22, 23 by then.
right.
Start your
There's
whole.
no guarantee. Yep, there's no guarantee he's going to end up panning out. But the one thing I can say about Oakland, a fairly decent majority of our prospects are outfielders. And
Yep.
so if I know Bolt is the highest rated of our outfielders, but actually I think Denzel Clark is leaps and bounds ahead of him at this current moment. And then you still have Colby Thomas, who, by all accounts, they are extremely high on. So you deal with Jacob Wilson as your number one. You deal your number 5 prospect Bolt. You throw in Susac as number 11. So now you're sending them 1, 5, and 11 from your organization. And then to boot, you throw in a major league ready pitcher in a Mitch Spence or a possible JT Ginn. Now, I'd rather hold on to Ginn, but Spence may not be a bad option there. They get a major league arm ready to go.
Yeah, who can slot into the middle of their rotation as well.
That's right. I could see it working, and if I'm open, like I empty the tank to give it a shot.
I mean, it's an intriguing thought. I don't know that it'll ever happen, but I know we talked about it the other day, and it seemed like it was too easy to put together a package for at least one of the two guys, whether it be Crochet or Robert. I think I would probably go with Crochet over Robert, just because you can get the power pitcher no matter what planet he plays on. Sacramento,
That's right.
Oakland, Chicago, he can get outs just because he can throw it by you. Whereas
Yep.
he talked about Rooker and Butler and Bolt and Thomas and all these guys that can fill in the outfield where you don't necessarily have to have Luis Robert. Everybody would love to
Well,
have a healthy, solid Luis Robert because he's a
yep.
all-star caliber player. But
Yeah, he's a 290 30 guy if he's fully healthy.
yeah, which is about what he had 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Something like that. And if he's on a team that I think he's interested, I think that was part of this past season's problem too. Is it didn't take long to realize that they were going nowhere, and for some guys, it's hard to play in those circumstances.
Yeah,
But
he
it's
hit.
being reported. It's being reported by Morosi that a Crochet trade is nearing or getting closer as the winter meetings
I hope it's not Philly.
approach.
I hope it's not Philly, but
Yeah, just because
they've got some juice to get him, and
yeah,
they could do it pretty quickly. And I think they
I
could.
think it's to the point where we all don't want to see the rich get richer.
Yeah, and they'll get him without ever touching Andrew Painter or somebody like that. Probably Justin Crawford as well. Um,
What about potentially the Reds on Crochet? I don't like it personally because if I'm him, I would not want to pitch in that ballpark. As well as I think as talented as they are still a little on the young side to make a run in the Central.
they have enough prospect capital to
But they
probably
have the
get
firepower.
both of them.
Yeah, they have the firepower for sure.
Because you've got your, I mean, obviously India's gone, and you add Singer into the rotation. Rhett Lauder looked every bit the part of what I thought he could be last year. Um, a little light
Tim
on the
Green
K,
made
a
a
little heavy
huge
on the
step.
walks at times, but I mean, this guy just got drafted last year, so whatever. You still
Yeah,
got Chase Burns, you got Petty, Collier's just turned 20. Edwin Arroyo is going to run into the same problem that Jonathan India ran into. And that's just guys in their top 8.
Yep.
So,
And think about it, like the jump that Hunter Green made this past year was massive.
God.
You pair him with a Crochet and you get a load to somehow stay healthy. That's a young and formidable power 3 right there.
Yeah.
All throwing at 96 plus, and
Lodolo has some of the nastiest stuff in the world. A lot of times he don't even know where it's going. It doesn't seem like.
that's right. That's right.
I mean, you've got Ashcraft. I think he's surgery. I think he'll be out this year. Andrew Abbott. They signed. Nick Martinez is still there. He can start if he needs to.
And Abbott looked well last year.
Yeah, yeah. And so him, Abbott, and Singer currently are probably going to be your 4-5, and that's without adding, a Crochet type if they were to go that route.
So I just got a notification, and it may be a little bit older notification, but so one of the relievers I was hoping would not land at a power team has landed at a power team, and for most people, they're gonna be like, "That's not that big," but dude was filthy in the playoffs, and being that he used to play for Oakland, and I got to see him on a regular basis, the dude stuff just plays. Like Blake Trinan has a sign with the Dodgers for 2 years. I could very well see him be their closer this year after the postseason run that he had last year, if he can come into the season healthy.
Oh God, we got to stop ending on Dodgers talk. You got to stop, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I tried to throw the Dodgers in the middle right there and end on Oakland. At least it'd be something entertaining. But dang.
Well, we just stretch it out a little bit longer. We'll move on to something else. But yeah,
Tyler
that just come across.
We'll transition off of from West Coast to East Coast. Tyler O'Neill. We'll end on him. He's one of my favorites. You know that.
Yep, your guy. Do you remember where we said he was going?
He's going to Baltimore. I don't remember where. I don't think we actually talked about where he was going. I don't think we came up on him.
I may be wrong. I think you may have actually hit on that one. Seemed like when we were talking about Santander leaving for the Blue Jays or whoever, that you mentioned O'Neill being a solid replacement, somebody you'd like to see in that part. And it makes sense with them moving the fence back in.
The dude's got
he's
got the power. It didn't matter. He can hit them out of anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, he's a more talented version of Austin Hayes, who made an All-Star team 2 years ago in Baltimore with the fences back. You're probably going to lose the switch hitting bat for Santander to add the right-handed bat, but Gunnar, Adley, they both hit switch hit, don't they? Yeah. So you've got plenty of matchup possibilities there.
Yep.
So I don't think him being strictly right-handed is going to matter too much. Cowser left-handed, I believe. I don't know. I hope Burns goes back, and I hope they can compete.
They're going to sign somebody arm-wise that's going to be pretty big. It would be Burns, Fried.
I think Fried's destined for Boston right now.
I wouldn't think so, but I guess there could be like a Flaherty signing there.
I can see him signing both of them. If they're willing to go 600 plus on Soto, they're willing to go 300 combined on Eovaldi, Fried, Burns, some combination of that. I would feel like,
and that's, for me. I don't see them getting Burns back in Baltimore, just because I think if they were, it would already be done. Meaning, he played there last year. He sees the landscape. He sees the lineup. He sees how the managerial side of it works. If he was going there or staying there, I think it would have already happened. Unless at the end of the day, Baltimore just throws down a ridiculous chunk at him, well, then money always is going to talk at this point in the game and this level. But just think if he was headed there, he'd already be there, I believe. So I don't think he's a re-sign there. Therefore, I don't really know which direction they point toward. Um, but they've got to go get somebody. They've got to have a frontline starter to pair with Grayson and pair with Eflin, because here's the other side of that coin. Neither one of those two guys I just mentioned have a history of long-term health.
No.
Grayson's first taste last year of a full season still didn't result in a full season for health issues. Eflin, as long as I can remember in Philly, always had good stuff, and you could see the potential, but never could get through a full season. So O'Neal,
And
though,
Radish is
O'Neal
coming off
add,
of injury.
yep,
Chase McDermott didn't look spectacular. Trevor
no,
Rogers, another guy I like, but God, he's been bad.
yeah. Kramer
Yeah.
was decent at points last year. Like they got enough guys they can probably piece it together sort of
Povich.
until they figure out where they want to be, mid-season or so. But instead of continuing to have to buy a rental at the All-Star break, just you got to find the guy you can pay and you can keep.
Yeah, they've got enough prospect capital to do whatever they want to do too if somebody's on the
Yeah.
market. But they don't have a lot of arms coming up. McDermott, he made his debut, and then you don't. Nobody else in the top 8 really is an arm. So I don't know.
So let's see here, O'Neal deal.
I think he got 3 for 46 or something. Which
I'm
is
just kind of looking at sort of what they have.
3 for 49 and a half for O'Neal.
All right, so you got Gunner leading off. You got Adley in the 2 hole. You have um I guess that's where it starts to get a little interesting without Santander or another big bat, because you did have O'Hearn 3, Santander 4. Well, you've lost both of those guys potentially. Obviously, Santander can still re-sign somewhere, but
I
or
personally
they
would
could.
probably slot Westberg into the 2 hole and bump Adley to 3. And at that point, O'Neal's probably 4.
Well, I said all last year I did not like Gunnar Henderson hitting leadoff because I did not like the fact that your highest power potential guy, possibly, obviously Santander ended up showing that he had more power home run status wise, but maybe your best overall hitter between average and power hitting in the leadoff spot. I get that it gives you a possible jump early in the game if he goes yard out of the gate or hits a double out of the gate, but those kind of guys need to be at the plate with guys on base. Um, I would rather,
Throw Westberg up there
yeah,
at the
like,
leadoff spot.
Holiday's supposed to be your guy. You brought him up last year. He finally started hitting a little bit. I could see them, but you could potentially try and start the year off with Holiday as your leadoff guy. Go Holiday, Westberg, or Holiday, Adley, Henderson, Westberg in the 4 hole,
O'Neal.
Mount in the 5th, um, Mullins 6. You could start to. You got Cowser who power bat. I didn't like his average side of it. Struck out a little too much for my liking last year, but it was rookie year. It was first taste of the bigs, but he still produced power numbers. So they still got enough bats that they can sort it out 1 through 4, slot O'Neal in the 5 hole, and
And I think
move
it's a good
Rock
spot for
on.
him in the 5 hole.
Yeah, I don't think he's a 3-4 guy at this stage, but you get a 5 hole guy banging 25 to 30 home runs plus, and at least hit 240 ish.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next week or two. I imagine there's going to be some more dominoes trickling now that Soto is signed, so we'll see what happens when they all get to the meetings.
So
What trades happen?
I found or saw maybe what you were talking about earlier. I got the projected Mets lineup with the potential Soto signing, and it's Lindor, Soto, Vientos at 1B, Brandon Nimmo in the 4-hole left field, Marte 5 DH, McNeil second base 6-hole, Series 7-hole center field, Alvarez 8 at catcher, and Beatty 9 at 3B. I don't think you see. I don't think it makes sense to run Nimmo in the 4, and I don't think you see Beatty at third base. And I don't think I would have Siri hitting 215, even if he does hit 20 home runs, batting seventh. I would.
Siri's gonna be the 9-hole hitter one way or the other to me.
That's where he's got a slot. I really do think you see them really push to trade Beatty, get rid of him, let Mauricio, who is supposed to be healthy come start of season, run it at third base. I think you see Lindor, Soto. If it was me, it'd be Lindor, Nemo, Soto, Vientos, and with Marte hitting 5, McNeil 6. I'd run Mauricio 7, Alvarez 8, Series 9.
Alvarez would be higher for me. I know his average is not good, but he can run into so many balls and he's got enough power to sit 5-6 at the worst.
And I'm sure some of this prediction is based on left, right, because Lindor switched, Soto left, Vientos right, Nemo left, Marte right, McNeil left. So it's probably whoever was throwing this together was probably trying to play a matchup based situation. But for me, McNeil would be dropped, Siri would be dropped, and I'd bump Alvarez and Mauricio up a little higher with Siri banging in the 9-hole.
I don't think I could have Marte at 5. I'm looking at another one right now that's got Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Nemo, Marte, McNeil, Alvarez, Beatty, Taylor. The center field spot's probably destined for the 9-hole. If Beatty is at third base, or even Mauricio maybe to start off with, is probably 7-8 with Alvarez. McNeil, he's gone downhill a little bit quickly.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people forget about Ronnie Mauricio as well because there just hasn't been a whole lot of time at the big league level. But I want to say, if I remember correct, like his first hit in the big leagues last year had an exit velo of like 111 plus or something like that.
Yeah, it was a nuke.
I mean, it was a absolute missile that probably didn't get 20 feet off the ground. It looked like. I mean, it was just mashed. Yeah, it seemed like it was 111 plus, and it was just mashed though.
So Mauricio's gotten 101 at bats in the bigs. 248 average so far, 2 homers. It does have 7 steals though.
Yeah, I mean he runs decent. I just don't think he's a speed guy. He's similar to De La Cruz just in the fact of long stride.
Yeah.
He's not nearly as fast as Cruz is, but he's got that same similar long stride. But I mean, you're talking about a kid that's just now, I think, going to be 21, maybe
23.
23.
He'll be 24 to start the season next year.
Okay, I was a little off on age, but I just remember whenever I first got on him, he was really young. But 23 years old, hitting 240 in very limited action, but showing some power, showing some really good exit velos.
60
in his
grade
limited
power.
time. Yeah.
And 60 grade arm, so he's pretty good on the power side of either
correct.
side of it.
Correct. And unlike Beatty has shown production. And
what's crazy
so
is he's a 60-60 on hit and power, and he just hasn't at all.
Yep, just hadn't translated. It's been somewhat mind blowing as people that, or as someone that kind of keeps up with prospects and what they're doing, but it's been crazy that out of the 2 hitting prospects, him and Vientos, that the guy that struck out a ton in the minor league level is now the guy that is actually putting it together, and the other guy is the one actually struggling to put the bat on the ball.
Yep. They're both about the same age. I think Beatty just turned 25, and Vientos will be 25 Wednesday. So
yeah, because Beatty's K rate from last year was 24.6, almost striking out 25% of his at bats. His whip rate was 26%. His chase rate was over 30%. And I think that's kind of where he's probably getting himself in trouble. He's swinging at too many bad pitches. He's not he's not aware of the zone as nearly as well as you would think he would have been based on his pedigree of what he got in recruiting.
also, I did look up while we were talking about Jordan Westberg a minute ago. He had 403 plate appearances, or 413, whatever it was. He had 97 strikeouts that just in his plate appearances. That's not counting his actual at bats. He was at 23.3% strikeout rate, which is, I guess I would have not guessed that Westberg was striking out that much.
Right.
Hard to slot him in the one hole if that's what he's going to continue to do.
It's a little high, but it's also a guy that strikes out at that clip and still hits for 260 plus with power.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit 264, 18 home runs.
And was hurt.
His Statcast page is pretty red until you get to the whip and K and walk ratios, but otherwise, like when he's making contact, he's doing damage. And I can say from the time he played at State when he was here at MSU, the guy, he had the hit tool. He had the bat to ball skills. It's just a matter of he's got to get in and get settled and understand the game a little bit further at the big league level. But
this time, that whole he's still young. That whole team is still young.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy that's 25 that got his first action, but in his first action goes 264 and 18. I guess.
Yeah, and it was higher than that until the end of the year, where I think he just kind of tapered off a little bit after the injury and all that.
Injuries and stuff. He started getting a little banged up. So you're talking about a guy 25 hitting 264, 18 with strikeout problems. If he hammers down on the strikeout problems and limits that to say 18 to 20% instead of 25, now you're talking about a guy that's probably hitting 280 with 20 home runs or 25 home runs. Yeah. So
with the wall moved back in on his power side. So
no doubt.
Well, I'm gonna let you end this one on a Mississippi State guy, so I'll do you that favor since we're not talking about the other team out there. But yeah, we'll get back in a couple days. I'll get this put out, and it'll hopefully we can get some people watching, some people commenting, interacting with us, and get back on in a day or two and get some more stuff out.
Yeah, man, sounds good, and hopefully anybody that watches the podcast or anything like that, any questions or any topics you'd like to have us hammer away at, like comment on it, let us know. We'll dive into just about anything.
Yeah, I'm not scared to talk about anything, and I can do it off the top of my head, or I can research it. It doesn't matter to me. Pat can make me sound like an idiot if he really wants to.
Every now and then.
Yeah. All right, man.
Enjoyed it.
See you.